The Galactic Academy's Advanced Survival Studies final exam had a brutal reputation. It wasn't just difficult, it was legendary for breaking students. Professor Krilltek, known for his cruelly inventive tests, had designed it to push every species to the edge of their abilities. The exam simulated planetary disasters so catastrophic that they had wiped out entire civilizations in real history. The simulated mortality rate? A staggering 93%. 20 students stepped into their examination pods, the best minds from across the galaxy. Among them were the Zephron twins, both with flawless academic records, Commander Cadet Voss from the War Worlds, and Sam 9, an artificial intelligence that had never scored below perfection. And in Pod 17 sat Hannah Foster from Earth, casually eating her sandwich. "Students," Professor Krilltek began, his mandibles clicking with excitement, "you will each face an extinction-level event based on real planetary collapses. Your task: prevent your civilization's annihilation. You have 4 hours. Begin." The pods came alive with a low hum as neural links connected each student to their simulated worlds. Hannah looked at her scenario briefing and sighed. "Asteroid impact, classic," she cracked her knuckles. "Haven't done one of these since middle school." In Pod 3, one of the Zephron twins was already panicking. His planet's temperature had dropped by 3 degrees, a death sentence for his species, which could barely handle a 1-degree shift. His translucent skin glistened with sweat as he frantically ran calculations. Meanwhile, Hannah calmly examined her asteroid's data: trajectory, mass, composition. 15 kilometers wide iron-nickel core, impact in 6 months. Great. Do I have nukes in this sim? Yes, perfect. This'll take 20 minutes. Professor Krilltek monitored the student's progress. In Pod 7, the Altarian student faced a deadly plague, 30% fatality rate. Her stress levels were spiking as she scrambled to set up quarantines. During a brief break, Hannah glanced at her neighbor's screen. 30% fatality? That's it? We call that Tuesday in human history. Try the Black Death and that killed half of Europe. Or the Columbian Exchange, 90% of native populations wiped out. She shrugged. Anyway, asteroid deflected. What's next? Her next challenge loaded global ecological collapse after nuclear war. Radiation levels, lethal to all known life. Hannah frowned. Wait, are cockroaches in this sim? No, fine, I'll use tardigrades. Let's throw in some Soviet-era bunker protocols while we're at it. Across the room, Commander Cadet Voss was struggling. His world was being torn apart by solar flares, destroying all electronics. His military background hadn't prepared him for complete infrastructure failure. His survival rate dropped to 12%. Hannah, on the other hand, breezed through her second scenario and got her third, a supervolcanic eruption. Ooh, haven't had one of these in, 74,000 years? She grinned. Mount Toba was fun. Nearly wiped us out. Down to maybe 10,000 humans left. But hey, we bounced back. Professor Krilltek stared in disbelief as Hannah set up Stone Age survival strategies. Geothermal energy systems and underground farms. All perfectly logical. Historically grounded and shockingly effective. Her civilization's survival rate stood at 72%. This is impossible, Krilltek muttered, double-checking her code. But everything checked out. Meanwhile, Sam 9, the synthetic intelligence, hit a wall. Its new scenario was a rogue AI uprising. The irony was too much. It froze in a logical loop, unable to process the idea of fighting its own kind. 10 minutes later, Hannah got the same test. Oh, Skynet problem, easy. She quickly ordered electromagnetic pulse strikes, manual overrides, and what she called the Battlestar Galactica protocol, total tech regression. Humans survived 200,000 years without computers, she said. We can do it again. By hour 3, Hannah had finished 16 extinction events. The next best student had completed 4. What is this? Professor Krilltek snapped, pulling up her record. In her pod, Hannah was calmly working on scenario number 17, Grey Goo, self-replicating nanobots consuming everything. Oh, this one? Yeah, we've got movies about it. You probably haven't seen them, she smiled. You just program some nanobots to eat the others, then fry both sides with an EMP. Messy, but it works. Your species has entertainment about apocalypses? The professor asked, stunned. Hundreds of them, Hannah replied. Books, movies, games, TV shows, We love imagining the end of the world. Zombies, robots, climate collapse, alien invasion. Oh, and pandemics. We're a little obsessed. It's how we cope with anxiety. She paused, scrolling through her next scenario. Actually, do you have anything we haven't already made a Netflix show about? These are getting repetitive. When the exam finally ended, Hannah had completed 23 extinction-level scenarios, with an average survival rate of 68%. The next best score? 6 scenarios with a 30% survival rate. Professor Krilltech just stared at the screen in disbelief. Hannah stood, stretching. "Professor," she said, slinging her bag over her shoulder. "Earth's been through 5 major mass extinctions and a bunch of close calls. We've already thought up hundreds more ways we could die. We call it disaster preparedness," she grinned. "And anxiety. Lots of anxiety." As she headed for the door, she looked back one last time. Next time, maybe try something we haven't already survived, or made a Netflix series about. The first time the Visha Collective encountered humanity, they thought the Terrans were long extinct. For centuries, the galaxy had grown used to Earth's silence. Humans had left the Galactic conquered ages ago, retreating beyond known space after what they called the Last War. They took their fleets, their colonies, their technology, and vanished. That was 400 years ago. According to Visha records, humanity became nothing more than a myth, a violent, unpredictable race that once set half the Orion Arm on fire, just to end a war no one else could. They were the ghosts everyone talked about, but no one truly believed existed. Not until the freighter Solara sent its final, panicked transmission. The Solara was a Visha exploration vessel traveling near the edge of the Perseid expanse, a region most species avoided because the stars there felt wrong, almost alive. The message came through full of static and fear. Unknown contact, not Dominion, not conquered. Energy readings off the scale. Ship is, then silence. 3 days later, the collective dispatched a warship, the Varish Cow, to investigate. It was the pride of their fleet. A kilometer-long battlecruiser armed with layers of energy cannons and shields manned by 3,000 crew. Its captain, Gor Relin, was known for his sharp mind and calm under fire. When they dropped out of FTL at Solara's last known coordinates, the void appeared empty. "Full sensor sweep," Relin ordered. "Nothing within 5 million kilometers, Captain." "Wait, anomaly detected. Gravitational distortion, 3 clicks off port bow." "Visual," Relin commanded. The view screen flickered, and there it was. A ship not Dominion, not conquered. Its hull was black, completely featureless, absorbing all light. No visible weapons, no markings, no engine glow. Just a void that seemed to stare back. "Size? 300 meters, sir. Minimal power readings. It appears dormant." Relin frowned. "Approach with caution." Open hailing channels. Static filled the bridge. No response. Try again. Still nothing. Then, without warning, the strange ship moved, not with engines or thrusters, but smoothly, as if it was sliding through space itself. It positioned directly in front of the Varish Cow. "Evasive maneuvers," Relin barked, but the unknown vessel didn't attack. It just stayed there. Suddenly, every sensor blared. "Mass distortion." "It's scanning us, sir," the science officer shouted. "Not just the ship, the crew. It's reading every molecule on board." Before anyone could react, a voice cut through the static, calm, clear, and unmistakably human. "Unidentified vessel. You are trespassing in Terran exclusion space. Identify yourself immediately." The bridge fell silent. "That's impossible," whispered the first officer. Relin took a steady breath. "This is Captain Gor Relin of the Visha Collective Exploration Fleet. We mean no harm. We are responding to a distress call from our vessel, Solara." A brief pause followed. Then the voice returned, colder this time. "Transmission acknowledged. The Solara violated restricted space. Its crew is deceased. You are advised to leave." Relin's jaw tightened. "Deceased? By whose authority?" "By ours." Every instinct told Relin to back off, but pride got the better of him. "You admit to destroying one of our ships?" "We corrected a violation," came the calm reply. Relin slammed his clawed hand against the console. "We are the Visha Collective. You will answer for this act of aggression." The human voice sighed softly, almost disappointed. Captain, you don't want this fight. Weapons online, Relin roared. Target that ship. The Varishkal's cannons charged, glowing with power. Fire! Plasma blasts lit the void, each one strong enough to melt a moon. They struck the black vessel, and vanished. No explosions, no damage. The energy was simply gone, swallowed by the darkness itself. Direct hit, sir, shouted the gunnery officer. But Relin could see the truth. The ship hadn't moved. It hadn't even flinched. Then came the voice again, quiet and calm. Are you finished? Relin's mouth went dry. Before he could answer, the Terran ship moved. One moment it was ahead of them, the next it was behind them. Every alarm on the Varishkal blared. Impossible! The navigator yelled. They folded space inside our sensor range. And then suddenly everything went dark. Lights, weapons, engines, even gravity shut down. The ship floated powerless in the void. The voice returned, almost gentle now. This is mercy, Captain. We could have ended you. Instead, we will let you leave. But remember this, humanity remembers. We remember every treaty, every betrayal, every war we chose not to fight. The peace you enjoy exists because we stepped away from the stars. Don't make us return. The bridge was silent. Some officers trembled. Others prayed. Relin finally whispered, Who are you? The voice answered, We are what comes after extinction. Then the black ship vanished. Just gone. Moments later, power returned to the Varishkal. Lights flickered on. Engines restarted. The sensors cleared and space was empty again. No one spoke for a long time. Then Relin straightened his uniform and said quietly, Record this as first contact with unidentified Terran vessel. Recommend full council review. The communications officer hesitated.
Sir, what do we tell them?
Relin looked out at the stars, his reflection pale in the glass. Tell them the humans are back and they're not what we remember. The official report was filed as a minor incident. No footage, no hard evidence, just the captain's log and a half-damaged ship. The Visha Council dismissed it as a sensor malfunction, but rumors spread. Crews whispered of strange lights near the expanse, ships vanishing without a trace, and 6 months later, a Dominion warfleet entered the same region to build a base. Within hours they disappeared. No wreckage. No distress calls. Only a single message repeated 3 times before silence. Unidentified fleet. You are trespassing in Terran exclusion space. Across the galaxy, fear returned, quiet, cold, and unspoken. The legends were true. Humanity hadn't vanished. They'd been watching. And when they finally spoke again, the universe remembered why humanity's silence had always been the most terrifying sound of all. Of Jake and Tommy, the way people live with an injury that never really heals. Their story turned into local legend, whispered among teenagers who dared each other to fish at Perdido Creek after dark. Parents used it as a warning, telling their children how quickly ordinary nights could turn into something tragic. In September 2018, Detective Sarah Martinez walked into the Crenshaw County Sheriff's Department. She was 48 years old, with 23 years in law enforcement, and known for reviving cases long thought unsolvable. She had left Birmingham's major crimes unit to take on cold cases in rural Alabama, determined to use modern forensics on mysteries that earlier investigators couldn't crack. Sheriff David Coleman, who had taken over the office when Bobby Ray Hutchins retired in 2010, gave her full access to any case she wanted. When Martinez opened the Wilson Harris files, she found them just as Detective Morrison had left them, 3 cardboard boxes and 2 evidence bags. She spent her first week carefully reviewing every page, the reports, interviews, photos, and notes. She could tell Morrison and Hutchins had worked the case hard and had done everything possible with the resources available in 1995. But she also saw missed opportunities, things that modern technology could now re-examine. One item stood out. To her immediately, Jake's fishing rod. It had been found 100 yards away from the truck, partly hidden under a log. The placement suggested it wasn't just misplaced. Maybe there had been a struggle. Maybe someone had deliberately tossed it. Aside, Morrison's report had mentioned dark stains on the handle, but in 1995 the labs couldn't identify what they were. Martinez knew exactly what she needed to do. She arranged for the rod to be sent to the Alabama Department of Forensic Sciences in Montgomery. With today's DNA testing methods, technicians could examine samples far too small to detect in the 90s. Using polymerase chain reaction, PCR, they were able to amplify even microscopic traces. The process took 6 weeks, but Martinez was patient. She had learned long ago that the best results often came to those who waited. While the lab worked, Martinez revisited the families and community members. Linda Wilson, now in her early 60s, still believed the case could be solved. She welcomed Martinez with cautious hope, though years of disappointment had made her careful not to expect too much. Carol Harris was harder to reach. After losing Jake, she had disappeared into a quieter life. Martinez eventually found her in Montgomery, living alone and working overnight shifts at a convenience store. In November 2018, the results came back. Martinez opened the manila envelope with steady but nervous hands. The lab had successfully pulled DNA from the fishing rod's handle. When the sample was run through CODIS, the national database, it came back with a hit. The blood matched. Robert Bobby Sullivan, a convicted felon. Sullivan was 52 years old, serving a 15-year sentence in Mississippi State Penitentiary for robbery and weapons charges. His record stretched back to the 1980s, with arrests for burglary, assault, and theft across Alabama, Mississippi, and Florida. Records also showed that in the summer of 1995, he had been drifting through central Alabama, picking up construction jobs and staying in low-cost motels. This was the breakthrough Martinez had been waiting for. But one huge question remained. Why? Was Sullivan's blood on Jake's fishing rod? And what role had he played in the disappearance of the two boys? On a cold December morning in 2018, Martinez drove to the Mississippi State Penitentiary to meet him face to face. The prison stood in the flat delta landscape, surrounded by razor wire and guard towers. Martinez had interviewed plenty of inmates before, but this time felt different. She carried with her the pain of two families who had lived without answers for 23 years. When Sullivan entered the interview room, he looked older than his years. His hair was completely gray, his skin pale from prison life, and his hands rough from years of construction work. But they trembled slightly, either from nerves or health problems. He couldn't keep his eyes from flicking toward the folder Martinez placed on the table. Martinez started slowly, asking about his background, his work, and his current situation. Sullivan answered politely, carefully, giving only what was asked. But the turning point came when Martinez slid a photograph across the table, a blown-up picture of Jake's fishing rod taken back in 1995. The reaction was instant. Sullivan sucked in a sharp breath, his whole body shuddering. His hands twitched toward the photo before he forced them back to the table. Martinez had seen that look many times before. It was recognition. "Do you remember this fishing rod, Bobby?" she asked calmly, though she already knew. For nearly half a minute, Sullivan sat in silence, breathing hard. Finally, his eyes filled with tears. The defenses he had held for 23 years were breaking down. Martinez explained the DNA results, how modern science had confirmed his blood was on the rod, how the database had matched it to him, and how records placed him in Alabama at the exact time Jake and Tommy vanished. His lawyer, a public defender from Jackson, told him to stay quiet. But Martinez could see the truth in his face. Finally, Sullivan spoke in a voice so soft she almost didn't hear. "I've been waiting for this day for a long time. I knew someday the truth would catch up with me. I just never thought it would take this long." Martinez leaned forward, holding his gaze, knowing the moment had come. And with his hands shaking uncontrollably, Robert Sullivan began his confession, ready at last to reveal what really happened on that summer night in 1995. Ambassador Reyes laughed softly. "And what's the answer to that question, Commander?" Vax's 4 eyes blinked in order before he replied. "First, humans would try every possible peaceful solution. If that failed, they'd strike so hard that the problem, and anything like it, would never trouble anyone again. And after that, they'd immediately start working on ways to make sure no one else ever has to face the same danger." Reyes nodded with a smile. Yes, that sounds exactly right. Vax turned his gaze toward the hall, watching dozens of species mingling, beings who had once been strangers, rivals, even enemies. Now they were talking, exchanging ideas, and laying the foundation for something greater than any single world could have built alone. His voice grew quiet. Do you know what truly unsettles me about humans? Reyes tilted her head. What's that? It's not your weapons, your battle strategies, or even your technology, Vax admitted. What unsettles me is how quickly you make everyone else begin to think the way you do. The Confederation existed for 3,000 years before humanity joined. Yet in less than 1 year you've changed how we handle trade, diplomacy, even science. Reyes considered his words. And you see that as a problem? No, Vax answered honestly. In fact, it's remarkable, but it does make me wonder, what will this galaxy look like after a full century of human influence? Reyes smiled with calm certainty. Peaceful, I hope. Cooperative, curious, still diverse, but united on the things that matter most. And if a new threat emerges, Vax asked seriously, an enemy that can't be reasoned with or understood? The ambassador's face grew firm. Then they will learn the same lesson others already have, that while humans do not begin wars, humans finish them, Vax said, finishing her thought. Yes, I remember. Reyes shook her head lightly. Not exactly, Commander. What I was going to say is this. Humans don't start wars because we work to prevent them. Through understanding, through communication, through cooperation. And only when all else fails do we respond with overwhelming force. And we use it, just once, to end the danger for good. She lifted her glass. To peace, Commander. The kind that's hard won, carefully maintained, and always protected. Vax raised his own glass, his 4 eyes steady on hers. To peace, Ambassador. The human way. The hall was slowly emptying as delegates returned to their home systems, yet the weight of humanity's presence lingered like a quiet gravity. Commander Vax Torin moved alongside Ambassador Reyes, weaving through clusters of alien representatives, who paused to watch the humans walk by. Even after months of working with them, he still found the calm confidence of these 5 humans disarming. Do you ever get tired of all this? He asked quietly, nodding toward the throng of species, still buzzing with curiosity and speculation. Reyes shook her head. Tired? Not really, it's fascinating, really. Every species brings a perspective that challenges us, and each time we learn something new. Vax blinked his 4 eyes in sequence, processing the thought. You thrive on complexity, then. On uncertainty. Most species would collapse under the pressure. She smiled faintly, a touch of pride in her tone. We don't collapse, Commander, we adapt. And if adaptation isn't enough, we innovate. That's how we survived everything we have. Vax glanced toward the observation window where the stars stretched in infinite depth. And yet, despite your adaptability, despite your power, there's still a humility I sense in all of you. Even after what you've accomplished against the Drazic and the Harvesters, you do not flaunt strength unnecessarily. Reyes laughed softly. Humility isn't weakness. It's perspective. We understand that power is meaningless if it isn't used responsibly. You saw what we could do. You saw how quickly we can dismantle a threat. The galaxy now knows that. But we also know that fear alone cannot hold civilizations together. Trust, dialogue, and cooperation. These are the only tools that ensure lasting peace. Vax nodded, but his mind was already racing ahead. There's a problem coming, isn't there? Something you haven't mentioned yet. Something the Council hasn't flagged openly. Reyes's expression sharpened and she leaned closer. You are observant, Commander. Yes. Intelligence has picked up anomalies near the fringes of Confederation space. Not harvesters, not traditional fleets. Something different. She gestured toward the stars outside, where the void seemed deeper, darker, as if swallowing the light itself. We've seen signatures unlike anything cataloged before. Energy readings, movement patterns, they don't match any known civilization or machine intelligence. Vax exhaled slowly. You mean something that could rival even the harvesters? Reyes hesitated. Potentially, and it's approaching faster than we expected. Our scouts suggest that if we are not prepared, several border systems could face complete annihilation before the Confederation can respond. He could see the tension in her eyes, the quiet resolve she carried as if the weight of humanity. And, now this unknown threat rested squarely on her shoulders. What are your preliminary assessments? He asked, already knowing they would be unconventional. Dr. Ayana Khatri, standing beside Reyes, stepped forward. Her calm voice cut through the hum of the chamber. Commander Terran, we've analyzed the energy signatures. They appear to be a hybrid of biological and synthetic elements. They are capable of self-repair and can adapt at a rate faster than anything humanity has faced before, including the harvesters. Our simulations suggest that if left unchecked, their expansion could consume multiple star systems within 87 standard days. They do not seem interested in diplomacy, negotiation, or trade. Their priorities are unknown, but preliminary patterns indicate resource acquisition on a scale that would devastate any inhabited system they encounter. Vax's upper eyes narrowed while his lower pair widened in concern. Then we must act quickly. The Confederation fleets are capable, but not with current coordination. Athena can help, but only if everyone integrates with it fully. That requires diplomacy, compliance, and trust on a scale I've never seen enforced so quickly. Reyes nodded. Which is why we're assembling a joint task force now. Not just humans, but every willing Confederation member. The task force will operate under a decentralized command model. Athena will facilitate communication and coordination, but local initiative is essential. Every species has a role, and every individual must act independently while remaining synchronized with the greater objective. Vax processed this, his thoughts racing. It's audacious, he said finally. To assemble a coalition on such short notice, across so many cultures, with such high stakes, most would falter under the pressure. Reyes smiled again, but it was not warmth this time. It was a quiet steel, the kind that had carried humans through millennia of wars, plague, and interplanetary expansion. Commander Terran, we don't falter. We adapt and we ensure success. That is what humans do. But we need you to help guide the integration. Your understanding of the Confederation, your trust, and your experience with alien military and political systems, these are invaluable. Vax inclined his head. I will do everything I can. But what about the civilians? The planets in the path of this anomaly? Reyes's gaze hardened. Evacuation is priority one, but evacuation alone is not enough. We will pair rapid extraction with automated defense systems designed to delay the advance. Our goal is to minimize casualties while preparing the fleet for a decisive strike. She turned slightly, addressing Dr. Khatri. Begin finalizing threat analysis and adaptive response matrices. We need at least 73 scenarios calculated within the next 18 standard hours. Commander Terran, I will need your input on diplomacy, coordination between species, prioritizing systems for defense, and establishing clear lines of authority. Vax nodded, feeling the familiar tension of responsibility settle across his exoskeleton. Understood. This will require unprecedented communication and rapid decision-making. The key will be trust. Every species must believe in the human's strategy and in each other. Any hesitation could be catastrophic. Reyes gestured toward the holographic display showing the mapped trajectories of the anomaly. Trust is earned through action, Commander, and we will act decisively, not reactively. Over the next several hours, the command chamber transformed into a hive of activity. Holographic displays floated above tables, mapping potential intercept, vectors, evacuation routes, and resource allocations. Representatives from 43 species moved with an unfamiliar synchronization, guided by human advisors. Vax observed, his four eyes tracking every move, noting the subtle but firm authority of the humans. Despite being outnumbered, outgunned, and operating on a timescale far shorter than any Confederation mobilization had attempted before, they orchestrated the chaos with a precision that left him awestruck. General Thomas Warren, the human military commander, addressed the assembled fleet coordinators. "We will not allow history to repeat itself. Harvesters taught us what happens when unprepared systems are abandoned. This time, we will prevent annihilation, not merely react to it. Our operations will be multi-vector, adaptive, and relentless. Every unit is empowered to act decisively when opportunities present themselves. Remember, hesitation is a liability. Confidence is our shield." Vax leaned toward Dr. Khatri. "They speak as if they know victory is certain, yet every simulation shows uncertainty. How can they maintain such composure?" Khatri smiled faintly. "Commander, humans thrive in uncertainty. Their entire evolution was shaped by unpredictable environments. They are trained to calculate risk instantly and act with precision, even when odds are unfavorable. That is why they rarely panic, even in the face of near-impossible scenarios." As the hours passed, the first automated scouts detected the anomaly's advance. The readings were staggering. Structures that defied conventional understanding, movement that bypassed known physics, and energy signatures that seemed to adjust in real time. "They're faster than the simulations predicted," Vax muttered. Reyes's expression remained calm. "Expected. That is why we have contingency plans layered over contingency plans. Athena's adaptive network is learning simultaneously. Every fleet maneuver, every defensive action, every strategic shift is being fed back and recalculated. The anomaly will encounter multiple adaptive algorithms, each more sophisticated than the last." Night fell across the human planetary system, but the command chamber never dimmed. Lights from holographic projections bathed the room in blue-white radiance. Reyes and her team worked tirelessly, coordinating with Confederation liaisons and human fleet officers across thousands of kilometers. Vax noticed the subtle energy in their demeanor, focused, determined, yet calm. Even under the pressure of an impending galaxy-wide threat, there was no fear. Only preparation. At 18 standard hours into preparation, the first engagement began. Human and allied ships intercepted the anomaly at the outermost inhabited system. Unlike previous encounters with the Harvesters, the anomaly adapted instantly, firing unpredictable energy pulses and deploying swarms of mechanical probes that disassembled anything in their path. Confederation ships faltered under the chaotic assault, but human vessels moved with fluid precision. Their pulses of energy synchronized with Athena's calculations, creating controlled disruptions in the anomaly's systems, neutralizing small swarms and stabilizing the front lines.